Joining me now for a different point of view is former Congressman Harold Ford Jr., a political analyst for NBC News. Welcome.
Good to
now,
see you.
Congressman, I know you don't think that some... Oh, absolutely. Merry Christmas to you too, Harold. Now, I know that you don't necessarily agree that some of these compromises were so bad. You kind of like the tax cut deal, right?
Well, I think in light of what happened in early November, as you recall, and we both know, our party, or my party, and I assume your party as well, took, in the president's words, a shellacking. The deal that was struck around taxes, we got just about everything we wanted except an extension of the tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans. We enjoyed a new tax cut, a payroll tax cut, and a 13-month extension, as you know, for unemployment benefits. In addition, the cuts that the president wanted around accelerating business tax breaks all will hopefully stimulate job creation and give big business and small business in this country some sort of stability and a sense of certainty. So I think the deal was a good one. Deals by nature, Cenk, as we both know, are not always what we ideally want, nor do they reflect the purity of our designs. But I think real leadership is when you enter a room with some who may not agree with you, and get the absolute best deal you possibly can. And as much as I respect Anthony Weiner, and as much as I respect your point in quoting him, I dare to say, in light of a 60-plus seat loss in the House, a 6-seat loss in the Senate in November, I think this is a darn good deal, and the president has every right to be proud of it and should brag about it.
Okay, well, let's focus on that for a second then. Look,
sure.
He passed payroll tax that I think a great majority of Americans would have been in favor of. He viewed that as a victory for himself. He passed the unemployment extension, which I think an overwhelming majority of Americans would have agreed with. DREAM Act, 80% of Americans. START Treaty, nearly everyone in the country agreed with it. And then finally, the 9/11 responders bill. My God, other than a couple of Republican senators, you couldn't find anyone who disagreed with that. So are those the great compromises he got for blowing an $850 billion hole in the deficit through gigantic tax cuts?
Look, the majority of Americans supported the deal or the compromise that was reached by the president and Republicans and Democrats in Congress. A majority of Americans believe that government should work and must work, and they support the idea and the concept of what has happened. Now, to your point about the 3 other significant pieces of legislation, Don't Ask, Don't Tell, the DREAM Act, I wish it passed, it should have passed, and I think the most brilliant part of your intro was that the president, I wouldn't say he would accidentally get the DREAM Act passed. I think that he will get it passed because the politics of the matter, both Democrats and Republicans want as many Hispanic and Latino votes heading into the next election cycle. But if the things were so easy, if all of these accomplishments over the last 2 to 3 weeks, and I don't think you're minimizing them, but you're certainly not elevating them like some of us are, if they were as easy as you suggest or as minor as you suggest, how come the Democratic Congress over the last 2 years couldn't win for us New Yorkers here a 9/11 compensation fund? How come we couldn't get Don't Ask, Don't Tell passed before? Why is it that at the beginning of this Congress we couldn't have gotten an extension, or I should say a New START treaty? Remember, just 2 weeks ago, John Kyle said he would not support the START treaty. Mitch McConnell went on one of the national TV shows on Meet the Press with David Gregory and said he would not support it. Here we are, a few days later, the president wins their support, wins support of a wide margin of senators, and we now have a New START treaty, which I think is critical in the face of some of the WikiLeaks disclosures, and in light of the fact that the president made a promise to the Russian leadership that we would get this done.
All right, Congressman, first of all, I was asking the same exact questions you were. Why can't a Democratic Congress do the simplest things until Jon Stewart pressures them on the 9/11 responders bill? I thought that was amazing. So I often feel that frustration. But let's turn to the next 2 years, right?
Right.
Now, do you really think that we can get Democratic priorities through with the idea of compromise? Because, I mean, you've seen those clips, and you've seen the Republicans over and over. It doesn't look like they have any intention of compromising whatsoever.
I think the president has a unique chance to divide a big part of the Republican Party. You and I know the Tea Party, for better or for worse, animated and colored the political cycle this last go-round. I think there are some in the Tea Party who are genuine to the notion and are true to the notion that reducing spending and reducing our national debt should be the priority of Congress. The president, I think, had a good set of recommendations laid out by his debt commission. If he's able to pick and choose the best ideas from the debt commission, cobble that into a plan, and try his hardest to win Democratic and Republican support, I think he can actually score a victory there. Now, you and I may disagree on the Social Security cuts and even other entitlement cuts. But I think if this was an easy question about how you balance the budget and lower the long-term debt, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation. Congress would have passed it and there would be no debate about it. The reality is this is a tough question. Sure.
But we of course,
so I think he can get a win on deficit reduction,
and that's
answer
why
your question.
No, but listen, that's not in my view of world, that's not a win for progressives, it's not a win for Democrats to get a cut based on Social Security cuts, based on cuts on the middle class, when we just passed a giant tax cut for the rich. Why do we do that? And then we're going to turn around and say, oh, it's time to reduce the deficit, and we're going to do it on the back of the middle class. That's not a Democratic win.
But, Jake, remember, the Deficit Commission proposal around Social Security was to means tested. So the wealthiest of Americans, those earning over $1 million a year, will likely not see Social Security until they're 70 and would have reduced benefits under the plan that was outlined by the Deficit Commission. But look, the details of this can be worked out. I don't think there's any doubt that there's a better way to do entitlement reform than perhaps Paul Ryan and some of the others have proposed. Matter of fact, I don't think there's any doubt about that. But to suggest that we're not going to have to make some sacrifice, middle class and upper income Americans, particularly upper income Americans, and in fact some of them may have to forfeit their Social Security for those who are in the top 0.1% of earners in the country. So I don't disagree with you there, but for the president to be successful, I think, over the next 2 years, the model that he has pursued in the last 2 to 3 weeks is a model he'll have to pursue going forward. There'll have to be some compromise. It was painful to watch my friend and former colleague John Boehner said he can't compromise. I hope perhaps he just didn't understand the question fully. Compromise is how you get things done in Washington. It's not a bad word, and you can only hope that President Obama can win for Democrats and for the country like he did when he struck, I think, I still believe, a terrific deal on taxes, on tax cuts for all Americans.
I think Congressman Boehner is fully aware of what he says and what he means when he says he's not willing to compromise. But listen, you know, we differ on how we want to get things done, but we hope some of the same things do get done. For example,
Absolutely.
Later in the show, we'll talk about how I think the president can win on the DREAM Act. But former Congressman Howard Ford Jr., thank you so much for joining us.
The way you laid it out, I think, in your intro, is the way the president and the White House should follow. And I hope they're watching, and I hope they adopt the measure, or should say the approach that you outlined earlier.
See, another thing we agree on.
Merry Christmas to you,
I hope they're watching too. All right.
Happy holidays.
Thank you.